Hello, my name is Warren Ralph Whitley. I'm a past Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. I was Grand Master in 1997 and 1998. Numerically, I believe I am the 75th Most Worshipful Grand Master in the District of Columbia. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I was born on Tuesday, February the 16th, 1937, in a house across the street from Second Baptist Church. It was a snowy Tuesday morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the ambulance couldn't get there, so I was born in the house. That house is no longer there. I was born to Ralph and Margaret Whitley. My father's family is from Johnson County in North Carolina, and my mother's family is from Appomattox, Virginia, but she was born here in the District of Columbia. I went to school in the District of Columbia, graduated from Spingarn High School in 1955, after which I went on to Howard University for one semester, majoring in music. My desire was to be an arranger and a composer after that of Quincy Jones. I liked jazz music, so while my peers were listening to rhythm and blues, I was listening to bebop and jazz and Miles Davis and Sonny Stitt and that group, but I really wanted to be another Quincy Jones. I realized after one semester that I couldn't pay the price. So I enlisted in the United States Air Force in January of 1956. Went on from that and spent 4 years in Misawa, Japan. Came back and spent 18 months, 2 years, or almost 2 years in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then on to Goose Bay, Labrador, and back to Andrews Air Force Base, where I came out of the military because they were ready to send me to Vietnam, and I was not prepared to go. I tell all people that I knew about Southeast Washington, but I knew nothing about Southeast Asia, so therefore I was not going. That Friday I was getting out, I had a telephone call from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, who wanted someone that had the experience that I had. He asked me, was I willing to come to work that following Monday, and I told him no. I would come to work that next Monday, so he had me go down and take the civil service test for a clerk typist. Passed that test, went to work. 90 days after after I was hired as a GS3, I was promoted to a GS5, and 18 months later I was promoted to a GS7. After which, in 1974, I went into the Upper Mobility Program, where I progressed from there, and I retired from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration in 19... can't remember, whichever that date is. After spending 28 and a half years there, I retired as the chief of ADP, or Automated Data Processing, for NASA headquarters. During that process, I met a young lady by the name of Ada Alberta Smith, and we became engaged and married in 1963, and we had 2 lovely children, 2 sons, Eric Warren Whitley and Douglas Ralph Whitley. Now let me tell you a little something about the naming conventions in my family. The naming convention is that the son middle name would be the same as the father's first name. So going back to my grandfather, whose first name was Dallion, my father's name was Ralph Dallion, so consequently my name became Warren Ralph. My first son's name was Eric Warren Whitley, and my second son's name was Douglas Ralph Whitley. Same thing went on with our grandsons, DeAndre Eric Whitley, Tobias Warren Whitley. Then we have Dalian Douglas Whitley. Dalian's name came from my grandfather. And then we have a young lady by the name of Mackenzie Ali Whitley. Her middle name is Ali because her father liked Muhammad Ali, and that's how she got her middle name. I then, in 1977, I joined the Masonic Order, Eureka Lodge number 5. My first appointment in Eureka Lodge number 5 was that of Senior Master of Ceremonies. Now that was a great jump because usually you started 4 positions back. So I progressed rather fast in Eureka, and I became Worshipful Master in 1983. After becoming Worshipful Master, I was appointed to the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge by then Grand Master Ellis, Matthew Ellis. And from that point, I became involved in the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. Specifically in 1985, I was involved with the administration of then Most Worshipful Grand Master Charles Frederick Bates, and that he asked me to automate the Grand Lodge. He purchased the first IBM XT with 64K of memory and a true floppy disk. And with that, I was able to put up the accounting system or the budget system at that point in time. We also put up the administration system with all the name, addresses, and telephone numbers of all the members. Progressed from that and started the IT ministry within the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. That was really my jump-off point that exposed me to the Grand Lodge in the sense that the administration and the brothers conceived that I had talent, that I had managerial skills, and I had expertise that was needed by the Grand Lodge. And in 1987, then Grandmaster Roland D. Witt Williams saw fit to put me in what was then called the back 4 appointed positions that once you were appointed to those positions, it was almost a foregone conclusion that you would become Grand Master at some point in time, provided you didn't mess up. Well, even at that, I skipped. I was appointed his junior Grand Deacon. So I skipped two stations at that point. And as his junior Grand Deacon, I assisted Grandmaster Roland D. Williams in putting together a project, an idea that he had in mind, but he wasn't finding the right person to do it. And that was to start a Masonic college in the District of Columbia. I helped him put the material together, but under his administration, he was never able to get the Masonic college started. Also in 1987, I became the worthy patron of Naomi Chapter Number 9. I served with Alicia Dixon, and in 1988, I served with my wife, Ada Whitley, who later went on to become a Grand Worthy Matron in 2005 and 2006 with Grandmaster Robert E. Wheeler. In 1991, I was elected the Grand Junior Warden and just progressed from that point on, involved in all aspects of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. I had the unique experience as Grand Senior Deacon, the unique experience of being responsible for the education of the Masonic craft, both the brothers and the sisters, and what was then just an educational process in teaching budgeting, financing, public speaking, how to manage a lodge and so forth and so on. So not only did I have that unique experience in doing that, but it also gave me an opportunity to learn during that same process. I went on to become Grand Master in 1997 and 1998. And I kind of followed in Roland Williams' footsteps in that he cleared out that back four, those four appointed positions. And I found it necessary also to do the same thing. I cleared out that back four. And I cleared out that back four because I needed some unique individuals and unique experiences for the things that we were going to be exposed to in 1997 and 1998. And I appointed three young men that I thought were worthy and had what I was looking for and what I felt the jurisdiction needed at that time. And Robert Wheeler from Ionic Lodge number 17, I appointed him as my worshipful senior grand deacon. I appointed J. Raymond Murray as my junior grand deacon. He's from Acacia Lodge number 25. I appointed Robert A.O. Foster as my senior grand steward from the Felix Lodge number 3, and I appointed Edward McKay as my junior grand steward from John F. Cook Lodge number 10. The good Lord blessed me in that sense, in that he sent me made those four men available to me. And I had the good sense to listen to him and appoint those four gentlemen. Also serving with me was my deputy grand master, Willie H. Griffin from Fidelity Lodge number 20, John Ellington Jr. as the senior grand warden from Redemption Lodge number 24, and Aaron R. Jordan as the junior grand deacon, the junior grand warden from Harmony Lodge number 22. So there were the 8 of us. A good team. A good team. Turns out an excellent team. And that in 1997, we had the good fortune that I was able to lay the cornerstone for the cathedral for the United Supreme Council in the Southern Jurisdiction over at 14th and U Street. When the United Supreme Council came here, I laid the cornerstone for that building there. A number of other things I implemented when I became Grand Master in December of 1996 for the Masonic year 1997 is that I began the process, or I implemented the process of the Grand Master would do his inaugural address immediately after the Grand Lodge closed, which was the week after. Before that point in time, the Grand Master had given his inaugural address as late as February of the following calendar year. That wasn't appropriate because everyone else had given their addresses and no one had any idea of what was on the Masonic Trust Board for the jurisdiction, on what goals and objectives the Grand Master had set. It was essentially too late. So I implemented that. That's when that began. I also instituted that between the period of December the 25th and January the 1st, there would be no stated communications of any organization within this jurisdiction. In January the 25th in 1997, unfortunately, I found it necessary to disband the Masters and Wardens Council because they had began to overstep their bounds. And peace and harmony was not prevailing, and they were the cause of peace and harmony not being present within the jurisdiction. I disbanded it. Also in January of that year, we contributed to the United Negro College Fund on BET television at that time. It was in its infancy in that period of time, and we were able to go on to that scholarship drive, and we made a scholarship donation of $2,000. In the year of 1997, I also authorized the open window for the Cyrene Crusaders, meaning that widows in office and Eastern Stars could go into the Cyrene Crusaders without the bloodline. That went over well. But most importantly, I think the most important thing that happened in 1997, in April of 1997, was I called together a special communication of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge for the purpose of presenting to them the necessity of establishing a building fund for this jurisdiction. Now, what was my impetus for doing this? My impetus for doing this really occurred in 1996 on a rainy day. I had taken my father to Washington Hospital Center for a hospital appointment. I stopped by the temple, parked out in front of the temple, and he sat in the car while I came into the temple to take in some business. When I got back in the car, the first thing he said to me was, "Son, what are you going to do with that building?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks that my father could sit there in that car in a stormy rain and look at that building and know that something had to be done, at least from the exterior standpoint. And that's when I began to think about what can I, as Grand Master, what can I present to the jurisdiction that would convince them that something needed to be done with the exterior of this building. At the time, we had a net at the top of the building to stop things from falling into the street. I presented to the jurisdiction, not to the jurisdiction, but to the Master Masons in that special session, a 4-page letter documenting and explaining to them the necessity for implementing this building fund. The building fund was to be $100 per Master Mason for 4 years, $100 per year. For each Eastern Star, it would be $50. After a number of questions, it went over better than I had expected it would go over. They bought into it. They approved it. And from that point on, the intent, as I explained to them at that time, was that we could raise $2.4 million over a 4-year period. And we could do the exterior of this building without mortgaging the building. We could pay for it cash. And if we were successful, we could get some monies from the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the District of Columbia to assist us in restoring the outside facade of this building. We were successful in that. Then Most Worshipful past Grandmaster Bates, along with another gentleman who was a trustee at the time, Trustee Jackson, trying to think of.
Fate Kearney.
Huh?
Fate Kearney.
Jackson. Wheeler help, it was Jackson's name. Who was a trustee? Yeah. Anyway, we were able to obtain through a grant $300,000. Wilford Jackson. That's the name I was trying to think of. Wilford Jackson. We were able to obtain a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $300,000. But we had to match the money. We had the money. And in 1999, under then Grandmaster Willie Griffin, we were able to go forward with the renovation of this building. One of the things I did in putting together this process was I tied it up so that no Grandmaster could spend that money without the permission of the Grand Lodge in session and without the permission of the Grand Chapter in session. Since the brothers and sisters were contributing to this fund, then they had a right to determine how and when this money was going to be spent. And no Grand Master could unilaterally go in and spend that money without the benefit of notice to the craft and getting their permission to spend that money. And that's the way it went down. In May of 1997, I had the opportunity to then represent the president of the Conference of Grand Master, President Howard Woods, who was the Grand Master of Arkansas, at an NAACP Legal Defense Fund awards banquet. This was the 40th anniversary of the Little Rock Nine, and I was really honored that I had that opportunity. And also during that year, I attended a pre-inaugural to then Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, at the Metropolitan AME Church. Howard Woods had 2 invitations, and he gave me one of those invitations. And that's the closest I've ever been to a president was at that ceremony at that church at that time. In September of that same year, I had the opportunity to attend the African American Civil War Memorial Freedom Foundation press conference. That award ceremony culminated with the dedication of the African American Civil War Memorial, which is right next door to the Masonic Temple. Also, members of the Prince Hall family owing allegiance to this Grand Lodge participated in other Masonic activities, foreign and local, St. John's Day and the day of the Grand Lodge anniversary and the Divine Service. The day of the Grand Lodge anniversary and the Divine Service was held at my church, at Shiloh Baptist Church in Landover, Maryland, 8801 Ardmore, Ardwick Road. That was also the first year of our new preacher, the Reverend B. Lewis Colleton. Currently, the Reverend B. Lewis Colleton is now demitted and is a member of Eureka Lodge number 5. But we had our first divine service there. The church has, I hate to say, the church hasn't been that full since then. There are members who still remember and say, when are you going to bring all those Masons and Eastern Stars back so we can fill this church up again? I also instituted in my recommendations that year that all most worshipful past Grand Masters would be exempt from dues, fees, and assessments by this Grand Lodge and any other organization within this jurisdiction. If it was a national organization, then the national organization would absorb the dues and the excess taxes and so forth. The Grand Lodge would pay those taxes. I had the opportunity also to let me say that our Director of Public Relations, I appointed the Director of Public Relations, Worshipful Alton G. Roundtree of Redemption Lodge number 24. And he had a weekly column in the Washington Afro-American newspaper, and he ensured that all of the activities of this most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge was highlighted in the Washington American Afro-American newspaper. Want to let him out?
Yeah, stop it. Yeah, well, it's going real well.
Okay, also in 1997, with the Jewel Contest was held, and the winner of the Jewel Contest that year was Acacia Lodge number 25. Warren Lodge number 8 came in second, and Harmony Lodge number 22 came in third. That was a great year. We also laid some cornerstones in 1997. In addition to the United Supreme Council Southern Jurisdiction, we also laid a cornerstone at Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church, was 5354 Sheriff Road in Chapel Oaks, Maryland. And as I said, we also did the United Supreme Council that year. We also began the planning for our sesquicentennial year, 150th year anniversary, which was to be in 1998. Also in the year 1998, we were also going to be the host for the Conference of Grand Masters. So you can readily understand and readily see why I needed certain people in certain places, why I put the 4 people that I did in what's called the back 4, because of the things that this jurisdiction was going to be responsible for and the things that was going to expose this jurisdiction. We had, in that year, we were hosting the 79th Conference of Grand Masters, the 50th Conference of Grand Chapters, and that was observed May 19th through the 23rd in 1998, in addition to celebrating our own 150th anniversary on March the 27th through March the 29th. I need to go back to insert something in 1997. In 1997, the deed of this Masonic temple was transferred from what was then the Occasion Masonic Hall Association. It was transferred then to our newly formed 501c3 charitable foundation, Freemasonry and Eastern Star Charitable Foundation of the District of Columbia. So that was a good thing that we did there. Also in 1997, we made a deposit at the Howard University Moreland Spingarn Center, which houses the archives and houses the artifacts of this most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. We made a deposit there. We also put up a plaque that is on, I guess you might call their wall of fame in the basement of that building. In 1997, we also started what is now our website. Our first webmaster was a young brother by the name of Right Worshipful Anthony Kipling Wells of Meridian Lodge number 6. He put up the first website for this most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. Unfortunately, in 1997, we lost our then editor-in-chief, Nick Ayers, who had been our editor-in-chief of the Masonic Digest. The Masonic Digest served as the catalyst and an example of what a Masonic newspaper should look like. And I appointed to replace him Alton Roundtree of Redemption Lodge number 24. In 1997, at our annual communication, I also had then Grandmaster, the Reverend Brother Thomas A. Jackman of Pennsylvania, to bring to us a replica of our warrant as a Grand Lodge for us to operate. We did not have one, could not find one, couldn't find one in the archives. Our historian at that time was Edward McKay, could not find one anywhere. So then Grandmaster Jackman brought us a replica of what that warrant should have looked like. The one that was generated on March the 27th, 1848, when this Grand Lodge first came into being. Now I'll go back to 1998. Also in 1998, we had our blood drive. We had the largest blood drive or deposits of blood larger than any other organization outside of the American Red Cross. Our blood drives was ran by a young man by the name of Past Master Henry Bonner of Hiram Lodge number 4. We called him Count Dragler because he was always looking for blood. And in fact, I am wearing the last thing that I ever received from Henry Bonner was this lapel pin. Also in 1998, we had one of our most successful Receipts for Education. Receipts for Education was sponsored by the various food stores, food chains, such as Giant and Safeway and some of the others. And what you did was you take those receipts and you turn them into a sponsored school. We collected almost $73,000 in receipts that year. And believe it or not, the person that collected the most receipts was a young lady by the name of past matron Ida Wright. Nobody could beat Ida at collecting receipts. Sometimes I wondered if Ida was stood outside the store and collected them as they threw the receipts on the ground. Didn't matter. She collected more receipts than anyone ever collected. As I mentioned earlier, we had perhaps the most successful conference of grandmasters that has ever been hosted by any jurisdiction. The theme of the conference was Prince Hall Masonry, a proud heritage, a great future. The president of the conference at that time was Grandmaster Howard Woods out of Arkansas. We were fortunate in that we had three great speakers, such luminaries as then Secretary of Transportation Rodney Slater. We also had the Honorable delegate from the District of Columbia, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who was the speaker for our Friday luncheon. And for our banquet, we had the Honorable Kwesi Nfume, who was then the director of the NAACP. We also had our mayor at that time, the mayor of the District of Columbia, Marion Berry, who also dropped in on us and wished us well and spoke during that period of time. During that year, there was something very unique that the Conference of Grandmasters had an opportunity to take advantage of. And that is, we had presented to us an excellent opportunity by the Wimberley Foundation, which was an advertising company out of Chicago, Illinois, who presented to the foundation a magazine. He wanted to develop for us a national magazine. The other one. A national magazine called the Masonic Journal. This was the premier issue of the Masonic Journal.
Hold it up.
It was issued in June of 1998. On the cover, you see a Buffalo Soldier. Within the bounds of it is none other than yours truly. I was featured
There you go.
I was featured in the magazine. Now, the question rises, why me? Well, my answer is, why not me? I was chosen by Howard Woods to be featured in this magazine at that time. I don't know what Howard Woods' reasoning was, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interview. I enjoyed going to Chicago to be interviewed. And I enjoyed the fact that the magazine that was presented was a quality magazine. It was first class. It was first class. It was second to none. It was equal to Ebony magazine or any other magazine that you might buy on the street at that time. And it was at no cost to us. The Wimberley Group spent over $100,000 producing this magazine. It was presented to the Conference of Grandmasters, and the various jurisdictions were asked to participate in the promotion of this magazine. The District of Columbia participated fully. The cost of the magazine was $15, a $15 subscription per year. But yet, the idea for this magazine failed. It failed because of something called sovereignty. The Grandmasters refused to participate because they felt like you cannot come into my jurisdiction and tell me what to do in my jurisdiction. I find that to be a downfall of the organization of Conference of Grandmasters. To be the center of their downfall is that one word, sovereignty. There was another opportunity for us to again pick it up and do it again. And in the year 2000, the Wimberley Group tried it again. And on the cover of the magazine, they put then and now Grand Worthy Matron Alfred of the Order of the Eastern Star in Mississippi. They featured her. This year, the year that this is being taped, which is 2014, the Conference of Grandmasters will be in Jackson, Mississippi, where she is still the Grand Worthy Matron. Also in that magazine, again, I was featured in an ad. I guess I'm photogenic. I know that sounds like I'm bragging. No, I'm not bragging. I'm still a humble person. Again, we failed. There was another $100,000 plus that the Wimberley Group shelled out their own money and produced that magazine, but we didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Also at the Conference of Grandmasters, we had a grand old time. We had a grand old time in that on one of the nights we had the Kimberly Insurance Company sponsored and paid for a night out of entertainment featuring Jerry Butler and Ruth Brown. We had a wonderful time. The conference didn't have to pay for that. The jurisdiction of the District of Columbia did not have to pay for that. In addition to that, the Kimberly Insurance Company gave us $10,000 in scholarship money to the District of Columbia. Again, Howard Woods, the president, decided who would get the money. The District of Columbia got $5,000. We awarded $5,000 to then Kermit Bryant Jr., who was a nice, most venerable Grandmaster Knight of our Knights of Pythagoras group, and the Georgiana Thomas Grand Chapter awarded an award to one of their Phyllis S. Bird Youth Fraternity graduates. I can't remember her name right off, but that's where that $5,000 went to. That same year, we raised over $76,000 in scholarship money that the jurisdiction presented, and on the first Saturday in June of 1998. Let me back up to 1997 again, since I mentioned that. The first jurisdictional scholarship program by this jurisdiction I implemented the first Saturday of June of 1997. That's where all the Masonic bodies came together and a scholarship award program and presented their scholarships as one unit, as opposed to doing it throughout the year, and we're not getting any benefits from it. We got benefits from it, from that first one, and it continues on today, even in 2014. The first Saturday in June of this year, we will have our jurisdictional scholarship program. It started in 1997 under my administration. Also in 1997 and 1998, we had our an awards luncheon for those Master Masons who had 50 years or more of service. And our featured speaker for that day was a past master by the name of Herbert Bates of Warren Lodge number 8. Herbert Bates was the first one to come back into this Masonic temple in 1948 under Grand Master Keys of Doric Lodge number 19, when we reclaimed this temple after it had been lost for the second time. Herbert Bates made quite a sacrifice in that, unbeknownst to his wife, he had cleaned out their bank account to pay the last monies that was necessary to reclaim this building. And naturally to say, once his wife found out that he had done that, she left it. But Herbert was the first Master Mason to come back into this building as a worshipful master in 1998, and that's what he wanted to do. That was quite a tremendous sacrifice, that you would give up your life savings for this organization. That's just how much Herbert Bates thought of this organization. We don't have too many men or too many women who would go through that extent to clean out their bank accounts to do such a thing.
So you said 98, did you mean 48?
1948, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. But this was done in Herbert came back into the building in 1948 of then Grand Master Keys of Doric Lodge number 19 when the building was reclaimed again in 48. But he was our guest speaker at the awards program for those recognizing those who had 50 years or more of service. We did a lot during those 2 years. We implemented a lot of things that during those 2 years that are now still going on. I have been known and famous for a saying that says, "If not now, when?" I coined that phrase in 1997 in my inaugural address, and I repeated it many times to get across to the membership that if we don't do what is necessary to be done now for this jurisdiction, then when are we going to do it? And whenever we decide to do it, prayerfully, it would not be too late, i.e., redoing the facade of this building. Fortunately, we did it at the right time, because otherwise, who knows what would have happened. This building could have very easily have been condemned. Things could have fallen off this building that would have come outside of this net and hurt someone below. So we were able, fortunately, to raise the money without mortgaging this building and correct those things that were wrong with the facade on the outside and put it back to the way that it originally was, and according to the Historical Preservation Committee. Also, we had the opportunity to celebrate our 150th year. We had the opportunity also to host the conference of Grand Masters. It was over 600 people who attended that conference at the Hyatt Regency on Capitol Hill at that time. So in looking back over my time as Grand Master, there's been a lot accomplished during those 2 years. Also during those 2 years, I became the chairman of the committee at the Grand Masters Conference of Protocol, Policies, and Procedures. I remained that chairman of that committee until about the period 2003-2004. When I came out of office in 1999, I asked then Grandmaster Willie Griffin would he appoint me to 2 positions. One is chairman of the Committee on Foreign Correspondence, and the other one to be on the Committee for the Revision of Laws. I've been involved in both of those until today, until the present time. And I've enjoyed that whole trip, the things that I've been exposed to. I also had the opportunity in 1997 because he could not get off the ground the Masonic College as he had envisioned it. I had the opportunity of appointing then Most Worshipful Past Grand Master Roland D. DeWitt Williams to a special project on education. He also had the special project on non-Prince Hall Masons, but in particular, a special project on education. And under that, I made it explicitly clear to him and to everyone else that this was not originally my idea. It was his idea, but he was unable to get it done when he was Grand Master in 1987 and 1988. I told Roland then, if it is not done now, then it would be his fault, because he had total control. I gave him carte blanche. Get it done. So all that information that he had collected over the years, he began to put together along with another young man that I had signed to him in 1997, was then our Grand Lecturer, Napoleon Jones of Ionic Lodge number 17, who's filming this, by the way. And in 1998, I added another young man, Warren Lodge number 8, Past Master McKinnon W. Myers. So those three individuals put together what is known today as the Masonic College, which was later added to by McKinnon Myers, the Masonic Academy, for the leaders in this jurisdiction, for their benefit, and that we would do better leaders than we were developing in the previous years. Masonry has done a lot for me. One of the things that I learned when I first came into Masonry, one of the first things that they teach you is that on this altar lies the book that will be your rule and guide for the rest of your life. That was the holy word. And I don't understand for the life of me how anyone can say that he's an upright Mason and he believes what he was taught in that first degree, that there lies on the altar your rule and guide for the rest of your life, if he never picks that book up, if he never studies that book, he never sees or studies what's in that book that will guide him through the rest of his life. I don't understand how a man can say that he is a Master Mason, but yet he does not belong to any church of any denomination. And he doesn't go and participate in the activities and be a part of that church. I don't understand that. That's foreign to me at this point in my life. That is totally foreign to me, because that's what Masonry did for me. It made me go back to the church. It wasn't a fact that I did not believe, because I did. But I wasn't doing what was right, and that was studying that book, becoming familiar with that book, learning more about God and Jesus Christ and what that means in my life and into the life of the many others. And I was blessed in that I had some good teachers in my church. Reverend Dr. William McPherson. I studied under him. My current pastor, the Reverend B. Lewis Colleton. I'm still studying under him. So he calls us all disciples. We are all disciples. Disciples of what? We are disciples of Jesus Christ. We are students. We are students. And if you go back in the scripture, we find that the apostles, who were not called apostles then, they were all called disciples because they were students of Jesus Christ. And you would never understand the ritual and the things that we say in our ritual, in our opening, in our closing, in our degree work. We would never truly understand what those meanings are if we don't start to study the Holy Book. We never will. So we say, well, in Masonry, we take a good man and make a good man better. No, we can't make that man better if he's not willing to put forth an effort to make himself better by studying therein that book that's on the holy, that is on the altar at all times, open for all the world to see. There's nothing secret about Freemasonry. Nothing secret at all. The only secrets we have are our passwords and the way we greet each other. Everything else is open. You know about, or you should know about. And especially in this day and time, you should know about. Are we any different from any other fraternal organization? No. They have their secrets, and they have the way that there's a secret in the way they greet each other. Those are the only secrets we have. Everything else is open and above board. What are we here? Why are we here? Friendship, morality, and brotherly love. Brotherly love also means charity. And if we are not doing those things, then we have missed the mark, we have missed the boat, and we have defamed the name of Freemasonry altogether. And in particular, Prince Hall Freemasonry as we know it today. I hope you have a good hour. I hope I've given you a good eyewitness account of what has transpired in those 2 years, 1997, and getting me to that point and the things that I have done after that point. I can't take the credit. One of Roland Williams' famous sayings was, "It matters not who does the job." And it matters not who gets the credit, but who does the job. And I've always taken that to heart. I've never worried about the credit. The credit is not mine. The credit goes to those who assisted me. And of course, the credit goes to Jesus Christ, who made those people available to me, who gave me the ideas. Gave me the idea through my father, that was starting one. Those other gentlemen who helped me, Willie Griffin, John Ellington, Aaron Jordan, Robert Wheeler, J. Raymond Murray, Robert A.O. Foster, Edward McKay. Now, there were others outside of them, but that was the core group. They were the ones that made it all happen. I just happened to get the credit for it. And the only reason why I got the credit for it, because I was Grand Master at that time. It could have been any other Grand Master with those same 7 gentlemen, and the same things would have happened. Because they were in the right place at the right time, with the right credentials, and the right expertise and knowledge and understanding to do it. Okay, also in 1998, I caused to be created a Masonic calendar of all living most worshipful past Grand Masters. This calendar was created and done by a young man by the name of Earl Tilden of Fidelity Lodge number 20. He put this whole document together of all the living past Grand Masters, the things that they had done, and also highlighting throughout the document the other Grand Masters from this jurisdiction. In 1998, I laid the cornerstone at my church, Shiloh Baptist Church in Landover, Maryland. That was done on September the 24th, 1998. And the other thing is my scripture. My scripture comes from Proverbs 18, verse 21. But in subsequent years, I've gone back and added verse 20. And it reads, "A man's belly should be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled." Then he goes on in verse 21 and says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." Proverbs 18, verses 20 and 21.